Hey, 1, 2. Hey, 1, 2.
Those rotating or this one? Or this one? Because for whatever reason.
Hey, check, 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 check.
Bad adapter. It was the cable works. It was a bad one of my black things.
Oh, really?
The converter from
You're the
Cat 5
best.
to HDMI.
Thank you so much. You're the best. Hey, check, check, check. Okay, so you're going to be moderating, Fred? That was yours, sir.
All right. Thank you.
You're first up, correct?
No. That's my briefing. So
He's
that's
up
what I am.
first? Okay. Okay. And you, cyber threat landscape, Noah Hardy.
That would be me.
Okay.
So after he's done, I like come, we'll swap out.
Yep. Okay.
And Nathaniel's gonna keep the crowd.
Okay. So if you could just put this inside or outside, either one, it's more convenient for you. Inside would probably be the best.
Okay.
Hang on one second. I'm gonna pull this around. Okay.
You got a little pocket. It will, but I got a pocket down here. Got a special pocket just for that.
You got a special. That it probably is just for that. Actually, you laugh.
See?
Or your kid, but it's probably. So I'm gonna let you tuck that wire in, but if you could just leave it right there, and you can tuck that in your.
In the pocket there?
Yeah. Okay.
Sure.
And we're good. Now we just need to swap out. Remember that, or I'll remind you guys.
Hey, so you go button to button or other?
I'm gonna go button. And forgive me because I have a cough, so I might cough at people.
I have one too. That's why I'm trying to put down some water. Some of the tools we use, they actually have a $1 million policy. If you get any ransomware hits, they cover the first $1 million.
Yeah. I work with a company that does that called, shit, I can't remember. But we've got a company that does exactly that. Now, they're doing software for banking.
Right. This is just it's Sentinel One. It's who does it, and that's actually who's part of SonicWall. Kind of partnered with them and delivered their endpoint solution too. It's basically kind of like you can still have your antivirus. It's just like an active endpoint management.
Right.
And what it does is it clicks on something before anything happens. It kind of like runs it in a sandbox to see what it's going to do.
Right.
And if it sees that it's trying to access server whatever, it locks it up, throws it out, sends it into this AI machine, and then just boom, automatically does alerts, and then ties in any behavior that person has done in the past, like ties all the events together and stuff. It's pretty cool.
No, it is cool, and I think it's interesting that at least the company that we work with, they basically said, we think our product's so great that we'll pay for the first $1 million if there's a breach.
Mm-hmm.
So, same idea.
Yep. But you can't change any settings.
Right.
You
don't change anything.
We have to keep it default.
I'll hit the head real quick.
Get her done.
About that time.
Anyway, so we do have it's hard to get a deal like that. When you get it, it's paid. You don't pay anything. And then
What's going on, brother?
Oh, man.
What's going on? How are you?
Good.
Yeah. Did you blast this morning?
Yeah.
How was it?
On the best 3 minute, 1 minute circle.
Ah, nice.
Yeah,
I like those. I like a 3-1.
Yeah, it was good. I mean, I think I lost a pound of water weight.
I think I'll be back on Thursday. We'll see how my Achilles holds up today.
Oh, really?
I've been taking it off. I've been swimming every day,
Nice.
which is nice.
See, I saw Dennis. He's like, yeah, one, two, which means Thursday will be hard.
Yeah, exactly. Got a 1 minute, 3 minute. You got to pay for that shit. That shit don't come for free.
Yeah. So what's the program here?
I don't know, dude. I'm
Afternoon. Hi. Hey, doing well. How are you guys? Awesome. Awesome. We're going to go ahead and get underway. We've got a few empty seats, and we may have some people trickle in, but we're going to go on ahead and get started so we can keep this thing on time. First, I'd like to welcome you to GlobeNet's Cybersecurity Lunch and Learn on Cybersecurity in Your Business, and we'd like to thank you for taking time out of your day to be here on behalf of GlobeNet and our partners at SonicWall and Align Americas, and of course the Vintage Rock Club, who did a great job putting this thing together. So, yeah. I'm Nathaniel Alured. I am the Executive Vice President for GlobeNet, and we also have with us today two of our account executives, Jared Rogers, who covers the greater New Orleans area, and Adam Fontenot, who covers Southwest Louisiana and Southeast Texas for us. So along with Kevin Gray, who you'll hear from in a little while, we are the GlobeNet team that's here today. We also have Noah Hardy of Align Americas, and Tushar Dua of SonicWall, and those three will be your presenters for this afternoon's luncheon. The format for today will be presentations from these three gentlemen. Following each presentation, there will be time allocated for Q&A. We would like to ask that everyone hold their questions through the presentation. We've provided one scratch sheet of paper for your convenience in jotting down any notes or questions you might have. And then these guys will handle those after they make their presentation. That'll just keep the flow going so that we can keep things on schedule. You may be wondering why I'm holding a dead microphone, and the reason for that is we actually are doing a live stream and recording this presentation, so the microphones are not used for audio projection in the room, but they are used to capture what's going on for the video feed. So that said, these guys are going to be mic'd. I will keep this mic. And for any questions, if you could just raise your hand, I'll come by with the mic so that way we can pick that up on the audio feed for the video. I believe that's all I had to get started. Does anyone have any questions before we get underway? Nope? Okay, well, Noah, if you'd like to come on up. Noah has an extensive background with various government agencies and security, and he is now with Align Americas, and he's a leading expert on a lot of what's happening in the landscape today. So thank you, Noah. If we could get a quick round of applause.
So I'll keep moving around, and I'm also going to try and stay not in front of the screen because it messes up the camera as they're doing the live stream. So my background in cyber comes from primarily, I was a clandestine service officer for the Central Intelligence Agency. I worked on multiple computer operations, most of them human-assisted. I also worked for the Federal Bureau of Investigation, changing sides to the defensive side to try and prevent intrusions on government systems from foreign powers and from organized crime. So I've looked at this issue from both sides of the issue, the attacking side and the defending side. What I'm going to talk about today briefly is the threat landscape. Talk to you a little bit about my company, the threat vectors, how these malware and other pieces of nefarious software get into your systems, the associated cost with your systems being compromised, how you can try and prevent some of that. Then I'll give you some claims examples that are very clear and for me a little bit scary about how expensive this can be. And then we'll kind of just briefly touch on what's coming next, what I see in the future coming forward. So very quickly, that's my company. You can read the slide, founded in 1925. We're new to New Orleans. We've only been here for about 3 years in New Orleans. We've have been nationwide since 1925, 10th largest insurance company in the United States, about $1.4 billion in revenue. So real quickly, some interesting numbers. The two most important to me are on the left and right, the 7.3 billion and the 3.86 million. The 7 billion is the number of breach records in 2017. That's an enormous number. And the 3.86 million is the average cost by company that it costs a company to recover from that breach. If you're not insured for a loss of that size, does your balance sheet allow you to recover? That's a big question that all of us should be answering. Notable breaches. Everyone's probably seen these. OPM, the Hyatt, Wendy's, Verizon. Look at the numbers on their breaches. We'll get to this later. The associated cost is coming later in the briefing. In general, it costs at minimum between $1.50 and $3 to notify each customer whose data possibly could have been breached. That's a federal mandate. You don't have a choice. It's by law. 21 million victims, 32 million victims, multiply that by 3. That's your loss. That's just 2017. The big names jump out at you. Uber, Verizon, River City Media was an enormous loss. Dun & Bradstreet. What's interesting and important to all of you sitting in this room is these names make the media. But 60% of all cyber breaches are against small to medium-sized companies. These guys are the news, but you guys are the ones that are suffering. 60%. That's the vast majority as far as I'm concerned. This side, the trend slide, scares me a little bit. You'll note that in 2016, there were 4,100 reported breaches. In 2017, there were 4,700, a slight uptick. But look at the number of breach records. It went from 4 billion to 7 billion. That's scary. That means they're getting better. Each breach is exponentially worse than it was before. And the trend is not going in a positive direction. More breach records, more total reported breaches. Same idea, shows you how much worse the breaches are getting each year, and it shows you that hockey stick growth between 2016 and 2017 of the number of records breached. This is 2014 to 17. This is just to show you that it's not just the United States. You can see that there's breaches all over the place, all across the world. I can't imagine how at 2 billion records, I don't imagine they don't have any notification that's required, so maybe their expenses aren't as large. But those are big and intimidating numbers. The point being that this isn't going away, it's getting worse. The criminals are getting more effective and more efficient. So we know there's breaches. The question is, how are they getting in? And you can read that. I'll talk about a couple of breaches that are of interest to me. There was the NotPetya virus that most of you probably heard of that shut down Maersk for about a week, cost them upwards of $350 billion to recover from. The breach was started at a Ukrainian accounting firm. The Russian intelligence service attacked the Ukrainian accounting servers so that they could blanket the Ukraine, shut down their business, and punish them for some political activity that the Ukrainians had been going through. Well, it leaked out from that accounting system and jumped into other systems worldwide and ended up getting on Maersk's servers and shutting down their entire computer system worldwide. They had to unplug their computer, shut it down. It was deleting and encrypting all of their data every minute that they had it online. They literally had to unplug their computers from the wall. And then Maersk, the second largest shipping company in the world, then had to replace every computer in the company, reboot everything. Luckily, they had off-site storage. They were able to recover most of their data, though not all, but it still cost them upwards of $350 million. That's just one vector. Another vector is tainted USBs. You go to a conference, you pick up a USB, it says, you know, some company logo on it. You take it back to the office, you slam it into your computer. The Chinese are known to have infected billions and billions of USBs with their own malware for just that purpose, and then sold them into the global market so that they could infect other people's computers and then launch attacks from those computers. So USB is another one. There's obviously, here I'll say this is very important, don't click on links, okay? Just don't do it. Don't click on links. That's another huge one. And humans are always the weakest link. Spear phishing. Someone calls you and says, hey, this is Kyle from accounting. I need you to give me X, Y, and Z. Don't do it. Don't answer them. Call accounting yourself. You know the phone number. Okay? These are the places where you see issues. The vast majority of breaches come from human error. This is an interesting slide to me. We're just now seeing the effects from Meltdown, Spectre, WannaCry. But those vulnerabilities in the systems have been around since 1995 for the first and 2001 for the second. And they're just now, in the last 2 years, being exploited. What other vulnerabilities exist that are post-1995 that we don't know about? What other zero-day exploits are out there that we haven't seen, don't know how to fix, and will have difficulty fixing? What's interesting to me is at your company, on average, it will require your IT department, assuming you have one, 190 days to discover that there's a problem. How much data can be exfiltrated in 190 days? Terabytes and terabytes of data. And on average, it takes more than 60 days to fix that breach. Associated costs we've already been over briefly. I mentioned the $1.50 to $3. You are legally required to notify them. These are other expenses you might face. At a very minimum, I'm guessing, you would allow or pay for your clients to have credit monitoring. That's $10. And the notifications $3, so that's $13 for every customer. So how many ever number of client discrete pieces of data you have on your server, that's what it's going to cost you. You got 1 million records, it's going to cost you $13 million. Now, that doesn't even touch on legal costs or forensic costs to figure out what went on, or public relations in order to recover your good name in the business. These losses are huge. That number, $3.86 million per company, seems like a huge number. When you look at this, it doesn't. $400 an hour for your public relations firm, $650 for your lawyer, $700 for an hour for forensics to figure out what went wrong. I don't know how many people in here have HIPAA data or involved with health information, but the fines are even worse. The one that's most interesting to me is this one, Catholic Health Services, Philadelphia. 142 affected individuals, only 142 records. Look at the fine, $650,000. It's a huge number. So years ago when cyber risk started to become more and more important, it was an IT problem. People said, well, IT will fix it. IT will patch it. IT will make sure that we're not vulnerable. That has changed. And the reason is directors and officers of companies are now personally liable for failure to take action to protect their company on the cyber side of the board. That is a huge responsibility. So now it's an enterprise risk issue. The whole company is concerned. Risk management is involved. The board is involved. IT is involved. Hiring is involved. HR is involved. Everybody's involved because it's such an important issue and it gets worse and worse every year. My last bullet, it's not an if, but when. Okay? So you need to make sure that you've got the programs in place to defend yourself. How do we manage risk today? It's a top-down approach. Starts with hiring. 25% of all data breaches come from an insider. 75% from outsiders. Of that 75%, 51% comes from organized crime. 20% comes from state actors. But 25% comes from the inside, so what do you need to do? Employee screening, employee training, penetration testing and audits to make sure that you are controlling both of those on the inside of the company and the 75% that are trying to come in from the outside. Make sure you select your vendors appropriately, like GlobeNet, like SonicWall, to protect you from these things. You have to make sure to have the right vendors there, and you have to also make sure that your IT folks are doing exactly what they're told to do. If there are problems that need to be patched, they need to patch them. You need to plan for a breach response. What are you going to do? How are you going to recover the data? Who's your firm? Who's your forensic firm to find out what's wrong with it? Do you have a plan in place? Do you have backup storage, backup laptops, backup computers? You have to have a plan. And then your last line of defense, unfortunately for you, is me. Insurance. You've got to have someone that's going to be able to help you pay for that $3.86 million if you have that worst day, which is that loss. I'll run through these quickly so we can move on to the more interesting stuff in relation to cyber. But first bullet is interesting. Cyber covers other stuff other than computer damages. But most importantly are the final three. IT is great. We don't need, we're not going to have a breach. Home Depot was breached. They had pretty good IT. The Pentagon was breached. They've got pretty good IT. OPM was breached. They've got pretty good IT. There are, as I mentioned, those zero-day exploits that you cannot stop. PCI. Oh, I just do credit card processing. I'm not really, I'm not at risk here. Yeah, you are. They push that exposure off onto you. You're at least partially responsible. A lot of people say, oh, my GL or my errors and omissions covers it. No, it doesn't. They're automatically excluded. Automatically excluded on your other insurance. We're a small business. No one's going after us. Wrong. 60% of the businesses are small businesses that get targeted. And this is my favorite. We use AWS, so we're covered. Wrong. Let me show you a sample of the contract from AWS. Last bullet in red. We will not pay for anything that exceeds the amount you paid us. If you're with AWS or any other cloud service, that does not protect you. I won't go through all of this. You guys can peruse it briefly. If you want to talk more about cyber insurance and the structure of the policies, I've left my cards in the back. You can pick them up. You can call me. But the bottom line is every single one of you has a different threat. You've got a different company that does different stuff, and your policies have to be made in order to protect what you do, not what she does. That means you got to sit down with someone, take the time, explain your business, explain your threats, and then allow us to put together something that makes sense for you. I'll run through these fast. Great claims examples. Hospital, 40,000 pieces of data got exploited. Insurance company paid third-party damages to those people whose data was sacrificed, as well as legal advice, forensics, monitoring, notification. $1.24 million are paid out. It's 40,000 records. You guys have 40,000 records in your server? It costs you $1.2 million if it gets sacrificed. Inside job. Disgruntled employee is pissed off, didn't get the fitness evaluation they should have gotten, starts deleting data. Insurance policy will cover to help you pay to have all of that data rebuilt. Extortion. We've seen the BitLocker and the types of programs that come in and lock your data and say we'll start erasing it in 24 hours unless you give us $6,000. In this case, $7 million in Bitcoin. What's interesting here is the insurance company paid to recover all of the damage they could, but the company said we're not paying any ransom. So this insurance company, I know you guys know this, lots of insurance companies just write the check regardless of what you want to do. This particular insurance company was AIG. They agreed with the company and said, if you don't want to pay the ransom, then we won't pay the ransom. But our policy would have covered it if you had wanted to. What's next? Again, I'll allow these guys to talk about it. They know more about it. The thing that scares me the most is Internet of Things. Before you know it, you're going to get hacked by a Samsung refrigerator in Austria that's linked with a toaster in Germany doing a DDoS attack against your servers so that you can't access your client's data. Or your refrigerator. Or maybe your lights. They've got all the lights now that you can buy that are Wi-Fi enabled. They can take your power out. So it's not just your computer data anymore, it's your physical world that's now at risk. Are you a manufacturer? Do you have machinery? Can that machinery be affected? What will that do to your production line? How much will that cost you? There's no business interruption in your standard property policy for a cyber hack. You have to have cyber business interruption. Better malware. It's getting worse and worse and harder. And state-sponsored threats, as I mentioned, with NotPetya, they didn't intend to screw up Maersk. They intended to screw up the Ukrainian government. The unintended consequence was a $350 million loss to Maersk. These guys will speak to this better than I can. I'm the insurance guy. They're the resilience guys. But you have to be ready. You know there's going to be mandatory breach reporting. You have to have a response team. You have to know what's happening. You have to neutralize the threat. You have to protect your clients. And you have to be ready to respond. There it is. It costs money, guys. You have to allocate the resources to have a strong IT department, to have strong hiring, to understand how you're going to respond, to put that plan into place, and then to execute it. And if that bad day comes, you got to have insurance. I know I'm selling insurance. It's totally, in my benefit to say you need it. But you really need it. The other big point I point out, if any of you are directors and officers of your company, I'll hit that again. You can be held personally responsible, personally liable. It's completely excluded on your standard directors and officers policy. If there's a data breach, and if it's decided that the directors and officers failed to take action, they can be held personally liable. That's a problem. Any questions? Go ahead. Sorry?
Hold 1 second.
Does your company insure Starwood?
We insure a company called Blackstone Capital that owns the Hilton brand. So we do a bunch of hotels. I don't believe that Starwood's part of that.
So you don't have exposure on the 500?
No.
Good for you.
Yay. But I will also say I'm a broker. So I sell insurance from multiple different underwriters, whether it be AIG or others. So my company is not exposed necessarily when there's a loss. It's the underwriters that are generally exposed on a loss. So, but no, we're not. Anything else? Perfect. Thank you guys very much. I'll be around for a little while back here if you have other questions that you don't want to ask in this larger group. I put my cards over there. If you want to talk a little bit more about cyber insurance and what we can do for you, I'd be happy to talk to you. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Noah.
Perfect.
Good? So what you
Nailed
needed?
it.
Did I scare them enough for you? Did I scare them enough for you?
Great job, Noah. Thank you very much. That was quite informative, and we appreciate it. You must have been very thorough since there were very limited questions. But yeah, pretty eye-opening stuff, right? So,
That was your one?
you know, I know that whenever I first got into this, I would never have realized that 60% of the breaches are small to medium businesses. That was a bit of a shocker to me. You do kind of think about the targets, and you think about the headlines and the big names that come across, and you don't realize that most of the people that are affected by it you'll never hear about. So definitely something to keep in mind. Okay, well, with that said, we'll keep rolling. Is this presentation good to go? Yeah? Okay. All right. Our next speaker is Kevin Gray, who is the founder and CEO of GlobeNet. GlobeNet is a New Orleans-based company and was founded in 2010. So I'll let Kevin tell you a little bit more about himself and the company, and he'll elaborate more on how we protect from cyber breaches. Thank you, Kevin.
Hey everybody, thank you for coming today. It's a pleasure to have everybody here. I think some of you know me, some of you don't. So I'm going to kind of step through. Please give another round of applause to Noah, because I think he did an excellent job today. And informing us all about the cybersecurity landscape and what we're kind of looking at as far as, you know, who's coming after you. A lot of people think that they're not a target, but they are, in fact. So a little bit about me. I've been in the industry for 20 years. I've always had a very inkling toward this network security, and it's kind of exciting for me, I guess, that it's becoming people are actually starting to pay attention to it now. A lot of times whenever I'll go and talk about it, people kind of glaze over, or they don't have the budget, or nobody wants to actually put their money where their mouth is. But as you can see, it's actually going to cost you a lot more by not taking action. I founded GlobeNet in New Orleans in 2010. So we've been doing managed security services and managed services, disaster recovery since then. We do a lot of virtualization as well. But this is specifically going to be on managed security services and what you can do to protect. So everything that Noah said today is, you know, that is the threat landscape, and his solution is at the end, right? So you got to have insurance definitely to take care of this stuff. There is no such thing as a secure network. And I'm going to say that again. There is no such thing as a secure network, period. No matter what you do, everything that we're trying to do is going to be preventative maintenance. The insurance is your last step of protection. That's after you've been hit. And you're going to need both. But as we're going to step through these slides, I'm going to show you that there's going to be situations where it's just, there's nothing you can do. The people are actually going to be the problem. So as we get into the meat of this, we'll start kind of going. So our vision and what we wanted to do, we thought that there was a missing link in IT support, and that was customer service. We can train people to do the technical stuff, but you cannot train a personality. So we've always wanted to go out and get engineers that have personalities, and we can train them to do the best that they can at the technical job, but also delivering the world-class customer service every time that you call and talk to us. We utilize the best practices to make sure that everything is standardized. So if we get hit by a bus or something happens, somebody can a true professional could step in and see, oh, this is what they were doing. They're following everything to the T, and to make sure that your business is actually protected the way that it should be. So without a secure base for all your IT needs, you're not going to have a secure network at all. So everything that we do is kind of on top of our normal managed services that handles patch management, user support, training, you know, just kind of helping people understand and get the true base of your network infrastructure down, and so that we can continue to focus more on the security services and protecting your company from these cyber threats. We also manage disaster recovery, replication of all your data. Recently, there's been some forms of malware that have been able to infiltrate the backup systems and delete the backups before they actually encrypt all of your stuff. That has not happened to us yet. So we opened up the managed security services to kind of offer the security services that enterprises have with unlimited budgets to the SMB market. You know, people under 1,000 employees is considered SMB by the federal government. So, you know, a lot of people think they're not an SMB or that they're not a target, and as you heard from Noah, that is simply not the case. 60+% of all incidents that we know of are SMB. And I say that we know of because a lot of this is only the stuff that's been reported. So some people get hit with this stuff and have not actually reported it to a government agency. How many people in here have actually got ransomware or anything on your network in the last couple of years? Anybody? Was that reported to the government agency? So the numbers that we're talking about here are only what we know. These are not, it's probably worse than what we're telling you, but we can only go by statistics and things that we have in place. Just got a little ahead of myself there. Here's some of the numbers that are on the SMB. It really does matter. It really is the SMB market that's getting hit. 60% of SMBs fail within 6 months of being hit because of all the costs that Noah outlined, the time that your business is interrupted, a lack of proper insurance to help you through this time, and they simply have to close their doors. The threat landscape, Noah, I think, did a great job of going over the threat landscape and kind of what's out there. So I won't dive too deep into that, but basically just know that, I mean, you know, you have exploits, that's the zero-day exploits he mentioned. There is no patch for that. So no matter how diligent you are, if there's something out there that attackers can get after, they're going to do that. Supply chain attacks. That is something that's really hits home with the medical community and any of the legal law firms that we deal with, anybody under regulatory compliance. Because of the High-Tech Act, it makes business associates, you responsible. They are also, as a business associate, are actually responsible for threats. So if somebody comes in and hits us or hits your vendor that delivers food to your hospital, or somebody that does document solutions for your law firm, they infiltrate them because they might have less security than you would at the law firm, or they might have less security than you would at your hospital, and that's how they're going to get in, because you've allowed this vendor access to your network through VPNs, through somebody coming on site, any type of things that, just for them to get their hands somewhere on the network, or just seeing who people email in your firm, just to know who is the right person to spearfish with the email targeting campaign. The IoT vulnerabilities is something that Noah went after. And if anybody knows me, they know that if I walk into a room and there's an Alexa device, I immediately unplug it. I just don't care. You know, sorry y'all, it's going off. But everybody puts these cool gadgets that connect to your Wi-Fi, but nobody ever changed the password. So literally everything that's on the network that just plugs in and automatically, quote unquote, works, you should definitely go in and change that password, because everybody on the internet knows what it is. Anybody of these threat actors, they know exactly what it is. Advanced persistent threats. That's another one that's very hard to combat. They sit on your network for an average of 200 days before they ever do anything on the network. They do a little bit at a time so that traditional antivirus does not catch any of this activity. And they typically wait and gather, and they sit and they see who has admin privileges on the network, who are the principals of the company, and they wait to strike. And as soon as they see an opportunity to strike, they do. We've had spoofed emails look like it was coming from a partner. They asked for tons of gift cards from their assistant and please mail. We've had, okay, this case is closed. We need to go ahead and send some of these funds over to this bank account. It looks like it came from the partner firm. Unless you actually read every single word of every single piece of that email, you wouldn't notice the one letter that was different. That cost somebody $250,000. And they cannot get that money back. It's gone. That is this threat landscape that we're facing today, and it's ever growing. Just the recent major attacks, I mean, just as recent as Marriott last week, all the way back to WannaCry. And this is just since the 2017. This is not going back. Ransomware kind of came along the scene in 2012, 2013. It has exploded recently as endpoint providers have been able to put patches and things to block these. All they do is just twist it a little bit so that they can get past those the endpoint protection. Every time a new strain or variant comes out, it's days, weeks before anybody patches all their systems. And so you're simply vulnerable during that time. Employee training is probably the most important to kind of spot these emails, see what it is. But 500 million customers with Marriott. That's more than every man, woman, and child in the United States. This is going to be a very hard one for them to get around. They're going to be faced GDPR fines. They're going to be internationally held accountable, not just in the United States. That is a very big one that we do not know a whole lot about yet, and it's going to probably get worse in the next couple of days. If anybody here is a Starwood preferred guest or Marriott, or if you've gone there, I would suggest going to change your passwords on every single thing that you have, especially if that password you use for that account is linked to anything else, because it's now available on the dark web and has been so for a couple of months. The problem with that and the fear is what's going to happen is now it's holiday season, it's Christmas time. People are getting delivery updates, notifications. This stuff has been on the dark web since September. That's when the breach happened, or that's when they found out about it. They've actually been infiltrated in their system since 2014 with an advanced persistent threat. They just found out in September, and they just made the notice available, what was it, Thursday or Friday? That's important, people. I mean, if you use the same passwords over and over in these different accounts, you're essentially, may have been vulnerable since 2014. And we've seen this happen a lot recently. They're targeting people. They'll come and they'll go to people's websites and see who's the principal of the company, and then they'll spoof an email from them or send them an email and say, hey, we know this is your password. And in the email, it's literally plain text. That is their password. And so they call us freaking out. I'm like, oh, you need to change your password, and please don't, use the same password everywhere. This is just one of the breach reports that we had. You're looking at the number of incidents. The big thing I want to look at here is the phishing represents 93% of breaches in 2018 so far. And this report came out in the summer. So it's only half, this is only half of the year that you're seeing right here. The dip is looking at, okay, antivirus people got a lot better and they started patching some stuff. Well, all they did was do a couple more variants, and you can see we're already on pace to beat 2016 and 2018. So these are the different types of variants of ransomware that are out there, and you can see that spike. The spike also coincides with some of the tools that were leaked from the NSA, and they've been weaponized and monetized by the threat actors that are out there. So it's only growing. The projected number to 2018 is actually going up at a steeper incline. It's more like the 20 to 15 to 2016 jump for 2018. So if you have a computer, if you use a network, you're at risk. We can help you with that. We've put together a suite of tools that use the best-in-class, everything from your cloud analytics, email filtering systems, to your point of entry or your perimeter security, all the way down to the endpoint and the user security training. So we're going to train your employees. We've got the best technologies that are out there to date. So much so that there's backed with a $1 million ransomware protection policy if you get hit while you're using all of our best practices for your holistic cybersecurity approach. The National Institute of Standards and Technology, NIST, was put together a few years ago by the government. It's a cooperation between public and private business and the government to come up with a framework that will allow businesses and government entities alike to be able to identify how to protect your network and your employees and your data. At the end of the day, they're just trying to protect people's data, and that's what it's all about here. So identify, protect, detect, respond, and recover. That's the life cycle of data management and security. Identify, simply risk management and business governance. We provide a virtual Chief Information Security Officer. We do risk assessments, asset management, impact analysis, and governance. Help you with your policies and procedures that you need to have in place. If you're a heavy regulated industry, HIPAA, PCI, FINRA, these things are required. This is not a, hey, do I need this? This is actually required by the government. If you have a data breach and they come or you have to self-report anything and you do not have this stuff, you're 100% going to get hit with a fine. No questions asked. If you have some of this stuff in place and you're showing a goodwill effort to protect your network, then they're going to negotiate or possibly not even have a fine. Protect. This is your preventative maintenance that we would like to see our customers use that they have the best in-class tools. We're going to try to make sure that these guys do not get your data. Again, that's where we come in with the $1 million policy. This is something that's very important, but it's also the trickiest part. And how do you protect network? I said earlier, there is no such thing as a secure network. But we're going to do our best to make sure that this is protected. It is, everything's encrypted. You have to have all the regulatory requirements that you need for your organization to make sure that if you do get hit, you can say that you've done your best effort to protect everybody's data. Detection. This is where artificial intelligence and or machine learning meets human security vendors like us, right? So we're going to record everything, like actual events and stuff that happens. It goes up to a cloud artificial intelligence that can detect these anomalies and events. So if something happens, they can kind of tell that this is out of the ordinary for this user's behavior, or this is out of ordinary for this computer's behavior, and it'll throw an alert. Once that alert happens, then you'll have human eyes come into it and drill down into what happened, and we can actually go back in time through the events to see exactly how this got in, who was infected, what data was touched, and what we actually need to self-report at the end of the day. But there are tools in place that we use, many, like I said, many different best and practice tools, but it actually opens up the malware in a sandbox, if you will, and it sees what it's trying to do. If it's malware, then it wraps it up and then sends all these events, said this is where it came from, this is what happened, these are the files it tried to touch, and it sends all that for continuous monitoring of all those data and events. It gives us a detection process to ensure that we know what's happening, that we have had an event, and what to do to prepare for the response. Response, hopefully your tools were able to stop anything that happened, but you're going to need to probably dig in and do some forensics works to make sure that it actually was. You need to prepare, if something did happen, you need to prepare your communications to all the stakeholders, to the government, to any agency that you're under for regulatory compliance. Then you have to start your mitigation process. Make sure that, hey, was it only one computer that was hit, or was it several? We want to make sure that everything that we need to get it contained and make sure that all the data is safe. like he said, Maris, they had to turn off all their computers and shut everything down. That was their prevention of the event, or the expansion of that event. Recovery planning, this is, you know, a lot of times this is where your insurance is going to come in. You're going to have to plan how to do it. What are you going to do? The damage controls, he said, that's $3 per person for communication. It's going to be a lot. This is something, this is where your insurance is going to come in heavy, and this is going to be where you're protected to make sure that you can handle all these costs and that you don't have to shut down. I don't want you to be a statistic of the 60% of businesses that shut down after a breach. All networking systems will be compromised at one point or another. The human is the weakest link. It's all about training your people. There's no silver bullet that you can say, oh, I've got this one piece of software and it's going to protect everything. There isn't. You have to have a holistic approach. You have to have a plan to take care of all the points in the NIST framework. You have to have a layered best defense strategy. You have to come up with, make sure that all your data is backed up, but backed up with one that has no known vulnerabilities. As I said earlier, there's a couple of known vulnerabilities in some of the backup systems that are out there already. Where there is a will, there is a way. And that is the thing that originally led me to cybersecurity in the first place. As I started getting into my career with computer systems, and it was just, wow, all this stuff is actually unpatched, and it's really easy, and you can do this, and you can if somebody wants to do something hard enough, they can get there. And I've talked with people who worked a lot on the red team for the government and throughout the world, and a lot of times it's people. They just go after the people, you know. This guy who runs the cybersecurity thing for China, they know that he goes to this coffee shop every single morning. He's got this model laptop. This is what his bag looks like. They might accidentally bump into him one day, swap the bags, and walk out. Now they've got this guy's laptop. If he hasn't followed all the right security protocols, boom, they're in. They have his credentials. They have everything he has. And actually, they probably have it already because he probably has a proximity badge to access the building. So they already have half of his information that they need to get in just from that. So that brings me to the end of our presentation. We also offer several other items for GlobeNet, such as e-discovery. We do HIPAA PCI audits and compliance, virtual desktop infrastructure hosting, as well as other cloud services, and strategic consultation and project management. At this time, that completes my presentation. Is there any questions that anybody would have or want to talk about, discuss anything?
The question I have is that, one, would it be a potential vulnerability if I use a hotspot on my phone to access the internet and send important data from my computer connected to a browser by using my phone as a hotspot?
Personally, I believe that's probably your safest bet. I do not use public Wi-Fi at all, period. I thought about doing it today, but I didn't want to be unethical in any way. But I could just set my laptop up to be whatever this public Wi-Fi is and just act as a man in the middle and get all of your information. We've had people, I've heard stories of people doing that. They'll go rent a room at the Ritz-Carlton, and then they'll put fake Wi-Fi up that's just one letter off from the real Ritz-Carlton, and they just take everybody's information as it goes through. They'll actually connect you to the internet. They'll actually give you to the hotel's landing page if there's a landing page. But they're in there scamming, almost like a credit card scammer at a gas station. They're getting all that information as you type it in. I personally use a hotspot, right? And that's going through your cellular signal. They would have to hack basically Verizon or whoever your carrier is to get any of that information. So that's probably your safest bet, is to use that. Anybody else? All right. Well, again, thank everybody for coming today. And we have another presenter coming up, Tushar from Sonic Wall. Please give everybody a round of applause for Tushar.
All right. Thank you, Kevin. very informative and illustrative presentation. We appreciate that. They're just going to trade microphones here, and then we'll get underway with Tushar's presentation. Tushar is with SonicWall. He's an account executive. He covers Louisiana and some other states. SonicWall is one of our preferred partners. So they are a vendor to GlobeNet. They provide us with some exceptional hardware and systems capabilities. While Tushar is conducting his presentation, Jared and Adam are going to come around with a little index card. It asks for business name, best contact, things of that nature. And then it also just has a very simple, if you could circle the best day that would work for us to possibly take a look at your systems, do a security audit, and just see if we can come in and give any of you a hand with your IT security services, managed services, or anything else. We'll collect those at the end of the day, and then also after Tushar concludes his presentation, we're going to do a quick little raffle. We've got a gift card and a backpack that we're going to give away. So sit tight after Tushar is done. We'll just take a couple of more minutes to collect those and conduct the raffle. With that, everything good?
Everything is good.
There we go. All right, well, quick round of applause for Tushar, and he's going to tell us about SonicWall.
All right. Thank you guys for showing up. Again, my name is Tushar. I'm based out of Texas, and I cover Texas and Louisiana as part of my patch. And I worked with Kevin for quite a number of years. So somebody asked a question about using public Wi-Fi. I actually had an example. I have a security architect. He's based out of Florida. And what he did is he wore a hacker shirt, right? Literally on his shirt, he has a hacker shirt. He goes to Starbucks, right? And he has a little MiFi pineapple, that you can connect to, right? So instead of connecting to the Google Starbucks, they were connecting to his, and one of the guys went into Bank of America and wanted to log into his account, and he literally had to tap over. He's like, I would not do it, because he can see his username, password, everything, right? So they were, instead of connecting to the Wi-Fi at Starbucks, they were connecting into his device, essentially, right? He was being man in the middle, redirecting the traffic, or they don't know the difference. They were connecting into his, and he is logging everything in. So he's able to get the username, password for the guy, right? So that's one of the reasons that Kevin was mentioning that, be careful there. I have a few more examples like that. So a little bit about SonicWall. We can make this interactive. You guys don't need to wait till the end of my presentation to ask any questions. Have you guys heard of SonicWall? Okay. So we've been in the business for 27 years now. I've been with the company about 6 years. We have about 1 million sensors all over the world, right? So essentially, a sensor is a firewall, email security appliance that we have. Any of the SonicWall devices is feeding information into our labs, essentially, right? So if you see something based out of China, some sort of a ransomware that happened in China, we are feeding information into our grid. It correlates it. It protects the rest of the guys, right? So essentially, we have got 1 million sensors. No one else comes close to that many sensors. Our bread and butter has been in the SMB business. And just because of the sheer number of devices that we have, our sample data rate is much bigger, right? In 200 plus countries, 24/7 monitoring. And if you log into the SonicWall, you will see updates that happen on a daily basis, right? Again, it happens under the hood, and we make sure that you're protected, right? From your box or Kevin's team, they are able to protect you without you guys knowing it, okay? Any questions on this slide? There's a cyber threat report. You guys can go to our website, download the cyber threat reports. Pretty interesting stuff, what some of the trends are. And if you have any questions on that, please do let us know. We publish this actually twice a year, once a year or twice a year. This year, we are publishing it twice. So 70% of the traffic is encrypted. If you go to any website, you see HTTPS, right? Google changed the game. If you want to look at your own company, if you want to rank your company higher, Google tells you make it HTTPS. That's one of the parameters it uses to rank yourself better. They think that, okay, you make it encrypted, we rank you better. The challenge is that 70% of traffic is encrypted, which means that your firewalls today are not looking at that 70% of traffic. So if I'm a bad guy, I know how to get into your network. I make a website, I make it encrypted, I send you a link, you click on it, I'm in your network, essentially. Right? So you have to have a solution, a firewall solution that can look at encrypted traffic as well. Right? Not just, back in the day, when I say back in the day, about 3-4 years ago, right? That number was 25%. Now it's 70%. It's going to get to 100%. All of your traffic is going to get to encrypted traffic by 2-3 more years max. Right? So at the end of the day, you have to have a solution that can look at that kind of traffic. Right? Be man in the middle, scans it, okay, it's good, and then lets you go by. Right? So that number is increasing. It's, like I said, it's going to get to 100%. And the challenge is very few folks are doing anything about it, right? And that's the reason, consultants, managed service providers like Kevin, like GlobeNet, are able to protect you by looking at not just unencrypted traffic, but also encrypted traffic, right? That becomes important. So I know all of us talked about these concerns. I'm going to skip through this slide, right, and then go into the meat. So I had, the same, architect, he had some USBs, right? So we had a kickoff, a partner kickoff in Vegas a couple of years ago. So he took these USBs, right? And Noah talked about this earlier. He took these USBs and he based out of Florida, so he put some in Florida airport, put some in Vegas airport, put some in the casino, right? Just curiosity, like what people do, right? Sure enough, and he had a mechanism of figuring out, so I think he put 30 USBs. Each USB had, give or take, 4 JPEG files, right? So 120, 30 times 4. And he was trying to figure out how many clicks was he getting from these people, right? So random people pick up the USB. Sure enough, they put it in their device, and they look at the USB. Wife picks XXX, some, rated R. He just put the names as rated R so that people will be curious and they'll click on it, right? And people clicked on it. People clicked on it. But he had a message that said, hey, guys, if I were you, I would not do that. And he had a nice disclaimer message saying that, hey, don't do this. So ideally, if everybody clicked on it, he should have seen 30 clicks on his device, right? But he got 67 clicks or something, which means that there are people that actually clicked the second, hoping that they would find some XXX pics, right? So that's the curiosity, is that's real, that happens, right? It's everybody over there is saying the same thing, and it's curiosity. It's a human. We are the weakest link. It's curiosity. It's you have to educate your staff as well to not do things like that. So that happens, and that's the reality of it. The other thing that also happened. Sorry if I'm telling too many stories here. I'll get to the meat. is there was a guy that was his neighbor, right? His neighbor is into drones. So he takes his drones, and this guy's working late at night. He puts the drone next to his window, and he takes a picture, right? He takes a picture of this guy working and sends him a text at 1 a.m., right? Hey, dude, what are you doing at 1 a.m. working? This and this. So he's like, dude, he's looking inside my home, right? He's looking inside my home. They're best buddies, right? But he's looking inside his home at 1 a.m. So he's like, okay, I'll get back to you, right? Few days happens, and his buddy, he's at his home. He has a white carpet, right? And he has wearing his shoes. His wife told him, don't wear shoes on white carpet, right? It will spoil the carpet. Don't do that. Sure enough, this has white carpet, and he has his feet on the sofa and everything. And sure enough, he takes a picture of him and sends it to him. And he's like, how come you're wearing, my buddy, he did that. So he's like, how come you're wearing shoes? I thought your wife told you not to put the shoes on the white carpet. He's like, how the heck did you get that picture? And he sent the picture out. He got in through his TV. He was able to get into the TV, take a picture, and send it back to him. So bottom line is that you can get into the network, right? You can get into the network. It's what are some of the things, IoT devices, or what are some of the things that you are trying to do to prevent that, right? So a little bit talk about SonicWall here. We have firewalls, we got access points, and when I say access points, we secure access points, right? We got email security, and we got client software on your device. So we have a whole gamut of stuff that gives, from your company's perspective, from Kevin and GlobeNet's perspective, that feeds information. Again, this happens under the hood because these guys are taking care of it. That sends information into our cloud, essentially, right? Sends information into the cloud. They can correlate stuff. They can see all the reports. They can see who went where, what did they click on, and they can generate reports for you, right? Again, this happens under the hood, but those kind of information we can gather, right? We can look at the management of all of these devices, single pane of glass, right? We can do the reporting on it. We can do the analytics on it, and give you the verdict, essentially, right? So again, this happens under the hood, and we have a broad portfolio of devices that give the single pane of management here. So emails, the guys before me, they talked about email as a layer, as a biggest mechanism that a lot of these guys are coming through, right? So you have to have a robust email security solution, right? If you're living in a house, some people are living in a gated community. Some people have, everybody has a door, right? Your window. This is, you guys might have a dog, right? So you have to have a layered security approach to make sure that your guys are protected at the end of the day, right? So email security is your first layer of defense, right? You have to have, majority of these guys will come in through email, so make sure that you have a robust email security solution there, right? Our email security solution also has got day zero prevention. I'll talk about that briefly, or we can chat about this offline, right? So that's one of the layers of defense is email security. The other is next generation firewall, right? So from a network side, two biggest places where folks come in from, either from the firewall, basically you have to look at your exit points, right? Your exit points are your doors, so that's your firewall and your email security are two ways that folks will come in, right? And in the next generation firewall, you have the capability of doing IPS, gateway antivirus, anti-spyware. If you're not doing any business with China, do geo-block, right? And botnet, right? So under the hood, these things are configured such that you guys are kept safe, okay? Then, as I mentioned, we have to look at encrypted traffic. That is becoming very important. A lot of threats could be coming in through encrypted. Firewall, all of SonicWall firewalls have the capability of looking at encrypted traffic. So that's something that is there, it's for free, turn on, capture, and real-time deep memory inspection, right? So capture is our day zero prevention, right? So what if we, all these, we have deployed 1+ million sensors all over the world, right? What if you're the lucky one, the first one, right? You don't have a signature for it. Let's say that, we don't have a signature for something for like few hours, maybe 5-10 hours. Let's just say that, right? And you are one of those guys that clicked on that. You are the first ones to click on it. What happens in that scenario, right? So we don't have a signature for it, but we can still provide you protection because of capture, right? So what happens is you click on it. We don't have a signature. Firewall says, I don't know what this is. Let me send it into the cloud. In the cloud, what do? We have got multiple sandboxing engines to figure out if we detonate it there to see if we can figure it out what this is, right? You go to the doctor, like I have got shoulder injury, right? I used to pitch, I have shoulder injury. So you go to the doctor, he's like, okay, you know what, is this, should I do X-ray, should I do MRI, should I do something, CAT scan, whatever it is, right? To figure out what the injury is, right? So we have got multiple engines in the cloud to figure out, hey, is this piece of malware, or I should say code, because we don't know whether it's a malware or not, is it bad or is it good? If it's good, let it go through, right? Because people still have jobs to do. They may be waiting for this file, and that file might be a good file, right? So that is our job under the hood that happens, right? It just happens under the hood, okay? Deep memory inspection, we are the only guys, first of all, that has got multiple sandboxing engine. But we are the only guys up until now, I'm pretty sure somebody is going to, somebody will probably have a solution, probably, I'm sure they're working on it, that does the memory inspection, real-time memory inspection, okay? So a file could say, hey, you know what, I'm not going to detonate right now because I know I'm in sandbox. So I'm not going to detonate it. I can detonate it after 30 days. So we are the only guys that will be like, hey, we'll look at the memory, right? So Spectra, Petya, all of those things that were memory-based attacks. We look in the memory to figure out what's happening, and we'll stop, whenever they are looking at detonating, we'll stop it right away, okay? And then finally, the client. We have a client software that goes on your machines, right? That protects your machine, right? So again, it has to be a layered security approach. No one solution is going to fit everything, bless you. But you have to have a layered security, right? Again, going back to the house example, whether you're living in a gated community, that's your first line of defense. Your house, your door is your second line of defense. Windows, dogs, and this is Louisiana. I'm pretty sure in Texas we have got guns, so I'm pretty sure it's the same thing in Louisiana, right? So it's a layered security approach. At the end of the day, what you're trying to do is protect, let's say, your locker, and your locker is your laptop or device or whatever it is, and you have your treasure in there. Let's just say that, right? Making stuff up here. So you're trying to protect that, right? And you have got different mechanism to protect that asset, okay? So briefly, already talked about it. We got 27 years of experience doing this. We have got excellent partners that are really good with our solution, that complement our solution essentially, right? We are not anything without these guys, so I appreciate GlobeNet, and because of that, we are successful. So, and here's our security portfolio, right? We got email security, network security, endpoint, cloud security. Some of the cloud security stuff we are still releasing. We are phasing it in. But yeah, we have a whole gamut of products that help protect our customers. Any questions on this? That's all I had. Yes, sir.
Okay, just a second. Bring your mic.
Is there a particular internet browser that you prefer over others?
It doesn't matter, right? From the way we look at it from a network perspective. So the mechanism doesn't matter to me, right? I have to scan you, doesn't matter how you go through my firewall, essentially, right? One thing is that on Firefox, let's say that you're trying to look at encrypted traffic, right? And let's say we're trying to push this. There's a certificate that gets pushed, right, to the device. That's how man-in-the-middle stuff happens, right? So that certificate gets pushed automatically through your GPO policies to IE and Chrome. Firefox is not that easy, right? It takes a next step to install that cert, but as long as a cert is installed in Firefox, I don't care. Otherwise, I would prefer Chrome or IE.
Anybody else? Okay. Well, thank you, Tushar.
Yeah,
we appreciate
thank you.
that. All right. Well, that concludes the information part of today's presentations. We hope that you've enjoyed the content and enjoyed the speakers. And again, we really appreciate your time and being here and learning more about cybersecurity in your business and what we might be able to do to help along with our partners. I want to thank one more time the Vintage Rock Club and their staff for putting this together. Thank you, Lydia. We appreciate you. And so real quick, the guys, Adam, will you grab a business card out of that bowl for me? All right, what do we have?
Chris Hogg. Peg.
All right, there we go.
Did I kill that?
Lucky winner of a $100 gift card for any of the properties under this group, which includes Coppervine and Fulton Alley as well. And we got one more. If we could draw one more, please.
Benjamin Fisher.
Benjamin Fisher, all right. Benjamin, we've got a GlobeNet backpack for you. It's a tech backpack laptop, and it's got tons of like cool pouches and stuff. So yeah, so there's that. If you guys could, if you filled out the card, just hand it to either Adam or Jared on the way out. All of the folders have Jared's business card in them. If you have any questions for the team, please reach out to Jared if you're in the New Orleans area. If anybody has any business interests in the southwestern part of the state or in Texas, please see Adam on your way out. Does anyone have any additional questions for any of the presenters today? All right. Well, again, thank you for your time, and have a great rest of your day.
Nice shot. Thanks. Good to meet you. Hopefully that was good. Oh, yeah. I have a question for you. Sure.
Are you headed back today? Or are you staying
No, I'm gonna stay till Friday actually.
No.
So, yeah.
What you working on while you're here?
Yeah. So